you, Professor Kevin. Good morning. Thank you for very generous introductions about myself. I'd like to thank the organizer to invite me. I think I've been attending this Summer Institute since maybe 4 years ago. Now this is the 8th Summer Institute and focusing on the issue of slavery and trafficking in persons. Yesterday I have already shared my thought and my things in the small breakout session. So I think the content that I would like to say is more or less the same. So those who were there in the breakout session, I hope you don't get bored with my presentation. It will be very short because I think most of us are expert or have a very big, great knowledge on these issues. That's why I will be very short in terms of what ASEAN, not really who ASEAN actors is. Me as a member of the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission of Human Rights, as one of the actors, how AICHR actually sees and how AICHR is actually trying to be part of the other actors who have already been dealing with the issue of trafficking in persons. The issue in this Summer Institute is both slavery and trafficking in persons. So it's quite a broad understanding because the situation of slavery is not only in the context of trafficking, but it's also in a different context. But slavery and trafficking, it is very much related with people in the migration process, and it is very much related as well with migrant labor movement. And that's the reason that the approach, I think, by the organizers is to look at business or corporations or association of business, and then governments, and then intergovernmental organizations. I think that's the way the Summer Institute is trying to address. So, as I said, the actor in the ASEAN context in this issue, of course, is this SOMTEC or SOMTC. It is a group of officials from 10 member countries coming from different backgrounds, basically law enforcement officials, from the immigration, from the police forces, from the attorney generals. So, declaration was already there in 2004 and after 2004, 2006. And then after that, now in 2014, 8 years later, that SOMTC or the leadership in the ASEAN Minister of Transnational Crimes decided to have a legally binding instruments in countering the trafficking person. That is a very interesting process because ASEAN doesn't really like legally binding instruments. If you can count, maybe it's only less than 5, maybe 4. First is the Charter of 2006, 2008 ratified, and then we have the ASEAN Conventions Against Terrorism, and now the other one is coming, the ASEAN Convention on Trafficking in Persons. Why is it like that? I think it's also very much related with the development or the emerging new challenges in this region. And the latest one, which was also then perceived as a very serious issue, is what is called the crisis in the Andaman Seas that forced some ASEAN member state, and then it was then, I was very happy that finally it was taken up by ASEAN. So the world cannot say anymore that the ASEAN is not doing anything on the crisis in the region. It is agreed as part of the transnational crimes issues as well as humanitarian issues. So AICHR was established in 2009. And since the beginning of the discussion, negotiation among the 10 AICHR members, we have agreed that migrations is one of the priority issues. The trafficking in persons as part of this migration process is also one of the very, very important issues. That's why the trafficking in person has already put as a priority issue in the work of AICHR since the beginning of its establishment. But as a newcomer, then we will have to be, of course, introduce ourselves to the SOMTEC, SOMDC, and to other organizations who is also coming on board of AICHR's, of the ASEAN context, ASEAN actors. That is the ACWC, where the intern has already chaired that for 3 years. Yeah? That's quite a long chair personship, I heard. AICHR is only 1 year. I was the chair of AICHR for 1 year. 1 year is already too much, so I cannot imagine that you are chairing for 3 years. I can share the suffering, I think. But it's a good work that we are doing. So, AICHR decided to take actions first, is in the format of dialogue and regional workshop. The first action was then in the 2013. It was led by my colleague who are here, Ambassador Manalo, reps from Philippines, and it was also agreed by AICHR as an activity, an official activity of AICHR, the first time that SOMDC and Philippine representative on behalf of AICHR conducting joint activities. It was very good to be started by the Philippines, because as we all know, the Philippine SOMTEC, we heard yesterday, is the separate, or the one in charge in the family of SOMTEC on the issue of trafficking in persons. So it was a very good start. It was started in Manila. There were 8 recommendations. Some of the recommendations are already implemented, and some are still going to be implemented. And one item that's very much relevant to the discussion of our session in the Summer Institute is the institutionalization, it's a very long word, institutionalizations of the dialogue between different actors in the ASEAN bodies dealing directly or indirectly on the issue of trafficking in persons. So you can, now I can mention it. First, of course, SOMTEC, AICHR, ACMW. I would also like to underline, within the ACMW, there is one very important element plus, is actually looking at migration and trafficking in persons in the context of migrant labor. And then the ACWC and ACWU, the ASEAN Committee on Women, and SOMSWEP, the Senior Official Meeting of the Social Welfare Development. We're dealing with children's rights. So these are, I think, the main regional actors. Of course, you have, from the perspective of security, a forum like ARF, the ASEAN Regional Forum. The issue of irregular migration, including trafficking, is a part as well of the issue of concern, which is discussed in that format. But I think, in my view, these are the key 5 or 4 that I just mentioned, actors in the context of ASEAN bodies. Of course, it has to be supported by ASEAN Secretariat, and even ASEAN Secretariat, it should be from 2 pillars of the Secretariat, pillar of security and political insecurity, and the pillar from the DSG Mokhtar on the outreach and something, you know, I never really get the names, you know, where we have the supporting unit of ASEAN Secretariat that support the work of AICHR. So, that is actually the challenge. In the context of standard setting, SOMTEC has already got the declaration, and then now is going to adopt the convention. AICHR in 2012 submitted the ASEAN Human Declaration, and it was adopted by Head of State. And then the ASEAN Commission on Women and Children also then drafted the declarations on the to eliminate violations against women and violence against children, where the issue of trafficking, the situation of women and children in the traffic situation is also then the focus of concern in the declaration. And I think the regional action plan has not yet adopted. Yeah? It is going to be adopted. So, looking at this regional action plan of ACWC, and looking at the coming regional action plan of the ASEAN Conventions on Trafficking Persons, and the work of AICHR, as well as other bodies that I mentioned, I think that is a necessity to have a regular dialogue, not an ad hoc dialogue, but a regular dialogue to see how far each of the bodies actually has been achieving or facing some challenges and trying to be effective in terms of regional response. So that's actually the issue that we have been discussing in the last 2 days that is very important for the future. Now, that starting of the annual process will be initiated by AICHR in collaboration with SOMTEC. The budget is already, the concept note is already adopted by AICHR through the process of negotiation as usual, and this concept note has already also submitted to the SOMTEC to ask their view on that, and then we have already incorporated the views from the SOMTEC, and we are now actually in the process of waiting the dates when are we going to start this dialogue. And of course, time is very important. It is sometimes very difficult to get everybody on board, because each of these bodies having their own activities, and to really find a good dates where everybody, a good representation of each bodies can attend the dialogue is a challenge. Anyhow, another initiative that AICHR is just recently also initiated is looking at the situation of women's rights in the disaster situations. It is also led by Ambassador Manalo. She can probably later explain about the detail. So it is now officially in our program of activities for the next 5 years that disaster, women's rights is also one of the issues where trafficking in persons is also very much related or become a source. The disaster situations become a vulnerable situation where the numbers of trafficking persons are increased. I think I'll stop there. So to give time, I think I already used my time about 10 minutes. And thank you very much for your attention. Looking forward for further discussion.